Section 21 of Pirates of Panama, The Buccaneers of America by A.O. Exquemelin, translated by G.A. Williams. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Chapter 12, Part 6. This pilot, having related so distinctly these things to Captain Morgan, was very well used by him, and after some kind proffers made to him, remained in his service. He told Captain Morgan, that in the ship which was sunk, there was a great quantity of plate, to the value of 40,000 pieces of eight, which occasioned the Spaniards to be often seen in boats about it. Hereupon Captain Morgan ordered one of his ships to remain there, to find ways of getting out of it what plate they could. Meanwhile, himself, with all his fleet, returned to Maracaibo, where he refitted the great ship he had taken, and chose it for himself, giving his own bottom to one of his captains. Then he sent again a messenger to the admiral, who was escaped ashore, and got into the castle, demanding of him a ransom of fire for Maracaibo, which being denied, he threatened entirely to consume and destroy it. The Spaniards considered the ill luck they had all along with those pirates, and not knowing how to get rid of them, concluded to pay the said ransom, although Don Alonso would not consent. Hereupon they sent to Captain Morgan, to know what sum he demanded. He answered, that on payment of 30,000 pieces of eight, and 500 beeves, he would release the prisoners and do no damage to the town. At last they agreed on 20,000 pieces of eight, and 500 beeves to victual his fleet. The cattle were brought the next day, with one part of the money, and while the pirates were busied in salting the flesh, they made up the whole 20,000 pieces of eight, as was agreed. But Captain Morgan would not presently deliver the prisoners, as he had promised, fearing the shot of the castle at his going forth out of the lake. Hereupon he told them he intended not to deliver them till he was out of that danger, hoping thus to obtain a free passage. Then he set sail with his fleet in quest of the ship he had left, to seek for the plate of the vessel that was burnt. He found her on the place, with 15,000 pieces of eight got out of the work, beside many pieces of plate, as hilts of swords and the like, also a great quantity of pieces of eight melted and run together by the force of the fire. Captain Morgan scarce thought himself secure, nor could he contrive how to avoid the shot of the castle. Hereupon he wished the prisoners to agree with the governor to permit a safe passage to his fleet, which if he should not allow, he would certainly hang them all up in his ships. Upon this the prisoners met, and appointed some of their fellow messengers to go to the said governor, Don Alonso. These went to him, beseeching and supplicating him to have compassion on those afflicted prisoners, who were, with their wives and children, in the hands of Captain Morgan, and that to this effect, he would be pleased to give his word to let the fleet of pirates freely pass. This being the only way to save both the lives of them that came with this petition, as also of those who remained in captivity, all being equally menaced with the sword and gallows, if he granted them not this humble request. But Don Alonso gave them for answer a sharp reprehension of their cowardice, telling them, "If you had been as loyal to your king in hindering the entry of these pirates, as I shall do their going out, you had never caused these troubles, neither to yourselves nor to our whole nation, which hath suffered so much through your pusillanimity. In a word, I shall never grant your request, but shall endeavour to maintain that respect which is due to my king, according to my duty." Thus the Spaniards returned with much consternation, and no hopes of obtaining their request, telling Captain Morgan what answer they had received. His reply was, "If Don Alonso will not let me pass, I will find means how to do it without him." Hereupon he presently made a dividend of all they had taken, fearing he might not have an opportunity to do it in another place, if any tempest should rise and separate the ships, as also being jealous that any one of the commanders might run away with the best part of the spoil, which then lay much more in one vessel than another. Thus they all brought in according to their own laws, and declared what they had, first making an oath not to conceal the least thing. The accounts being cast up, they found to the value of 25,000 pieces of eight, in money and jewels, beside the huge quantity of merchandise and slaves, all which purchase was divided to every ship or boat, according to her share. The dividend being made, the question still remained how they should pass the castle, and get out of the lake. To this effect they made use of a stratagem, as follows. The day before the night wherein they determined to get forth, they embarked many of their men in canoes, and rowed towards the shore, as if they designed to land. Here they hid themselves under branches of trees that hung over the coast a while, laying themselves down in the boats. Then the canoes returned to the ships, with the appearance of only 2 or 3 men rowing them back, the rest being unseen at the bottom of the canoes. Thus much only could be perceived from the castle, and this false landing of men, for so we may call it, was repeated that day several times. This made the Spaniards think the pirates intended at night to force the castle by scaling it. This fear caused them to place most of their great guns on the land side, together with their main force, leaving the side towards the sea almost destitute of defence. Night being come, they weighed anchor, and by moonlight, without setting sail, committed themselves to the ebbing tide, which gently brought them down the river, till they were near the castle. Being almost over against it, they spread their sails with all possible haste. The Spaniards, perceiving this, transported with all speed their guns from the other side, and began to fire very furiously at them; but these, having a very favourable wind, were almost past danger before those of the castle could hurt them, so that they lost few of their men, and received no considerable damage in their ships. Being out of the reach of the guns, Captain Morgan sent a canoe to the castle with some of the prisoners, and the governor thereof gave them a boat to return to their own homes; but he detained the hostages from Gibraltar, because the rest of the ransom for not firing the place was yet unpaid. Just as he departed, Captain Morgan ordered 7 great guns with bullets to be fired against the castle, as it were to take his leave of them, but they answered not so much as with a musket shot. Next day after, they were surprised with a great tempest, which forced them to cast anchor in 5 or 6 fathom water; but the storm increasing, compelled them to weigh again, and put to sea, where they were in great danger of being lost; for if they should have been cast on shore, either into the hands of the Spaniards or Indians, they would certainly have obtained no mercy. At last, the tempest being spent, the wind ceased, to the great joy of the whole fleet. While Captain Morgan made his fortune by these pillagings, his companions, who were separated from his fleet at the Cape de Lobos, to take the ship spoken of before, endured much misery, and were unfortunate in all their attempts. Being arrived at Savannah, they found not Captain Morgan there, nor any of their companions, nor had they the fortune to find a letter which Captain Morgan at his departure left behind him in a place where in all probability they would meet with it. Thus, not knowing what course to steer, they concluded to pillage some town or other. They were in all about 400 men, divided into 4 ships and 1 boat. Being ready to set forth, they constituted an admiral among themselves, being one who had behaved himself very courageously at the taking of Portobello, named Captain Hansel. This commander attempting the taking of the town of Camana, on the continent of Caracas, nigh 60 leagues to the west of the Isle de la Trinidad. Being arrived there, they landed their men, and killed some few Indians near the coast; but approaching the town, the Spaniards having in their company many Indians, disputed the entry so briskly, that with great loss and confusion, they were forced to retire to the ships. At last they arrived in Jamaica, where the rest of their companions, who came with Captain Morgan, mocked and jeered them for their ill success at Camana, often telling them, "Let us see what money you have brought from Camana, and if it be as good silver as that which we bring from Maracaibo." End of Chapter 12, Part 6. End of Chapter 12.